Hello, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today, I'm going to play around with Conte crayon, and then in a second part, I believe I'm going to try gouache on top of it. It's the start of the Mardi Gras break. Just have a lot of different things that I want to play around with. So this is the Master's Touch mixed media paper. I just kind of grabbed any paper and we'll play around from there with these experiments. I'm looking at a painting by Fantin Latour. I'm looking at a lot of his paintings. Absolutely just really love his work. And just kind of playing around with sketching the compositions, working with tonal values, trying to learn from the master. This is the natural sanguine that comes in the matchbook of the Conte. I think I have the 18th century Conte in this box as well. Though I haven't played with Conte too much the past day or two. I've been playing around a lot with these gray jelly rolls that I picked up, and those are absolutely, they're really good. They're so much fun. I feel like it's just increasing my understanding of kind of warm and cool colors, and just working with just values. So maybe that's one of the directions I'm heading in, but I'm looking forward to doing some watercolors this break. It was requested that I do a drawing from a photograph that someone had sent me on Facebook, so I'm going to do that. I'll probably do two versions of it. Play with at least a fountain pen for one, or maybe the Rapido metrics. We'll see. Then next month, the lady that runs the local farmers market, a friend of mine, she puts on what's called the Sicilian Festival. So there is a Sicilian population in the town that I live in. I think it's the third annual one. She wanted a little map, a little layout of where everything was. So I met with her the other day, and we talked about the layout of where the food vendors, the cooking teams, things like that, the band would be. And she wants me to make a fun map. So I'm going to film that process. The goal is to get that done during the break as well. Excuse me. I also have that Kickstarter that's currently running. The goal of that is to kind of raise funds and backing for just a free YouTube series with more linear focus on the miniature oil tonalist landscape paintings. And that's just to help pay for the supplies of those videos, to send out those paintings to the people that support it. Just kind of take care of all the background stuff. And while I talk about that, huge thank you to everybody that helps support this channel. And the Patreon, thank you so much to everybody on there. And for that like and subscribe. I think simply liking and subscribing to the channel really helps it grow. In the grand scheme of things, if I was to look at other YouTube pages, not really sure how to kind of grow a channel, so I'm just so focused on just actually creating the art and just having fun with it. Because a lot of that background stuff is rough. The other day, yesterday, I uploaded a video reviewing the Muse kits, and that was exhausting doing because I wanted to like kind of really do like a nice review, and I got so excited during it because it was just really cool that I kept on having to refill and restart. I'm not really into the whole editing process of these videos because it takes away from a lot of the time that I have to do art. Okay, so that was the 18th century sanguine. I don't know where I heard sanguine, but that has been making its rounds into my pronunciation. I think it just literally means, or originates with like kind of the blood color. The Trois crayon technique, the 3-color technique of the white, black, and the sanguine, or ochre, or the red ochre, is really interesting. And whenever you look up examples, a lot of it is really geared towards just portrait work. And in one of the many videos that I either watched or just articles that I read, was that the red itself just lends to the tinting of the flesh and to giving that feel. In fact, one article was talking about the writer's mother, who was exploring the 3 crayon and wound up just using white and black for non-portrait work, which makes sense, just kind of just working the value scale back and forth and omitting the color that kind of gives life to the flesh if you're not working with flesh. The other thing has been picking up and exploring more of the toned papers. I had gotten some of the toned sketch papers. I plan on ordering the blue, I think it's like steel blue, by Strathmore. It comes in like a pad of 50 for an 8, probably 9 by 12, I think. So I have the warm tan, I think it's a warm tan, and the gray, so I think the blue would be interesting. And then, yeah. So with this, and I think that's kind of one of the reasons I grabbed whatever pad was readily available for this one. Originally, I have some acrylics somewhere, and the acrylics are most likely the Ron Ranson palette, the more basic palette that I watercolor with. They were originally intended for some works on wood. that I played around a little bit with, but the results weren't too satisfactory. So anyway, so the initial idea when I was kind of walking towards the art room was Conte with acrylic on top of that, but I kind of veered away from that very quickly and thought gouache. And yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. Sorry, took a big old nap after work. Like I said, first day of the break, and a lot of videos start with that sentiment. Anyway, so the mixed media kind of has a tone to it. It's not completely white, and that will let me push in both directions. Let's see, let's just take some white out. Yeah, we can get some white right there. Anyway, so what's been sitting on my mind, and I've been talking to Joe Menza and Matthew Clemens, and both of them have been playing with oils. And when I say playing with oils, acrylics, they're currently like really diving in deep with them and really exploring and making interesting progress with it. And you know, that has me excited, has me thinking about stuff. And with this, the goal is to kind of either Conte charcoal down and just kind of slab some paints on top of it, either using this as an underpainting or as the art itself that's accentuated by the impasto type slaps of acrylic. So that's what's kind of been floating in my mind and what originally had brought me into the art room. Now, I also think that part of it is just the readings into the oil painting portraits by John Singer Sargent, where there was a gentleman kind of doing an analysis of a writing, a kind of a biography of Sargent, and talking about his process. And I know that one of the processes that just traditional artists use was charcoal as the kind of underdrawing and then oil painting on top. So there's kind of that mixed media from a traditional standpoint that's kind of been sitting in my head. And looking at Fantin Latour and just practicing sketching from his works has been helping me kind of see composition that he's working with, the interplay of the contrast that's taking place. And it also has me just thinking about what type of process Mr. Latour would have went about with the painting itself. And combining that with a little bit of reading on Sargent, there's like a few things getting a little muddled. And there was a translated book. It might have been the early, like very first few years of the 1900s that I started looking through. I found a copy of it online, and it was the teacher of either Fantin Latour or Sargent. Most likely it was Fantin Latour's teacher. But anyway, and that's about like the importance of memory in the art process and learning process. So I have to go back to that too. So a lot of fun, interesting stuff, and hope you don't mind all this rambling. So anyway, the goal here is to, instead of finding the acrylic and slathering that on top, I'm just going to work with the gouache, and that should give me an idea of how just any type of medium with water kind of interacts with this. I do recall in college a professor showing me that you could push some Conte around with a little bit of water. I was very close to grabbing the watercolor pads that I have for the plein air painting. Really, Hammy? What you knocking over, bud? So let's see. So a lot of the ideas, just kind of massing things in, working with the shapes. One area I've been struggling is just the form of the flowers themselves and the petals themselves. Kind of want to find a way essentially to render them pretty quickly, but and it's probably coming from the Chinese painting background, where with the Chinese painting you can load the brush up with numerous colors and really paint in flowers, and it was just a matter of practicing the brush strokes. And roses were kind of a triangle shape laid on top of a triangle shape, etc. So the Gong Bi style, which is the meticulous style for the Chinese brush painting, had shortcuts, and then the Ziyu had, which is the fast and loose, had its shortcuts in and of itself. And I'm sure that somebody out there could tell us about Fantin Latour and his approach, whether he just how he went about it. But from what I read, he painted every individual petal. He was the flower painter. So, and also from what I read, he did not want to be the flower painter. He made his living off of that, but he had wanted to do portrait work, etc. And they were really like not cool with the way they treated him towards his portrait work, which was nice and I enjoyed it, but I think it might have been just kind of too muted, and I don't want to say dead, but I think that was how people felt about it. But I like muted stuff, but I also like Sargent, and Sargent had just amazing portraits, and Boldini, just such beautiful stuff. Anyway, there's a part where with Conte where you kind of get to the point where it starts to smooth things out, especially when I use the white on top. I'll show you what I mean. Like right there, I'm kind of smoothing that out right there, and it gives you the feel of the probably, I don't know if you would say the Impressionists or right after them with the Expressionists. And Conte does market itself as having been used by famous painters during that time period. And that's probably how you can get that effect. But I don't know if I was taught not to smooth things out like that or what, because there's a part of me that kind of I don't know, kind of gets the heebie-jeebies, like a little bit of cringiness from that. So if I do that right there, it looks interesting. It smooths it together. It's contrasting texture-wise with the background, but I'm not sure I absolutely love that. Then we start building up on top of it. We can go back in the other direction, but I kind of wonder if we start running the risk of making paper harder if we paint on top, the medium adhere on top. The other issue is that using the mixed media, I know that this paper is going to curl if it gets wet. I just know it's just not going to be strong enough, not heavy enough. So I'll probably have to clip the corners down. Anyway, so I think for the most part, a lot of the talking that I'm going to do, this is the brown, the bistre, I believe. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation in French, but that's what I'm going to use. Now, where was I? Lost my train of thought, sorry. Okay. So, with Fantin Latours, I've noticed, and I'm not sure if this is done for a reason or not, but his backgrounds are toned. I'm not sure if he toned his canvas prior to painting or in relation to everything else, but I think that for the most part it just seems, from everything that I was reading, it's just super commonplace to tone the canvas. That being said, the texture of the canvas is seen in the background, and with his flowers being so realistic, I wonder if the texture of the canvas was meant to read as wallpaper. Where I remember my first drawing class, and there was like maybe a burlap or a fabric, and the professor had said, you know, don't draw all the threads, don't try to draw them all. But yeah, so it might have just been like us learning tones at the time, I'm not sure. But it makes me think about how we use different texture techniques to represent different things. How we want certain things to feel smooth or look smooth versus choppy, etc., etc. So I'm wondering if simply using the texture of the canvas is a way to get the texture of the wall or other surfaces. So a few ideas like that. You start realizing how dark his background is in relation to the flowers themselves. You also realize how the leaves support the flowers. Where in here, you have a highlighted leaf, which I'm going to come in. We have a leaf in here, and there's leaves that come up and back, and tonally they're so close to that background where I can kind of just go in and make the shapes. And speaking of shapes, I feel like there's a lot of I don't know if it's certain time periods where he's moved from one thing to the next, but a lot of triangles that seem to start happening, or a lot of points. For example, right here, just like a point. So a lot of different ideas whirling about. I'm probably entirely wrong with any sort of analysis that I have of Mr. Latour's work, but I do feel like whatever I'm doing from it is improving, and it's sparking some neurons or whatever. Oh, that looks nice through the camera lens. That's another thing, is the sticking the face right in the work while working isn't helping, and standing from a distance really helps. I have the Kindle right next to me, and just looking at one of Mr. Latour's works. So it's right here, right off to the side. Boop. And just kind of looking back and forth, and that's reminiscent of Sargent, who apparently had his canvas right next to his models, his sitters. And he would stand back and look at both of them at once. So I don't know. Now, one of the things that I should be doing is kind of standing up and working at a distance, and my arm is pretty straight. I don't know if you can kind of see my elbow. I'm keeping it pretty straight, so I'm at a distance from it. But standing up would be a better practice. It's just not feasible in the current art room. And I've talked about, the long-term goal of buying a house, having, more space. And how Sargent in his studio, he apparently wore a path in his carpet, walking back and forth from the model easel and from a distance, and looking and seeing how everything looks. And then the other thing is, being that I rent, obviously trying not to make a mess of this house and this room. And, my friends own the house, and I don't want to mess up the carpet. And if I grab a piece of paper and lay it down, you'll see, even with Conte, which is not as bad as charcoal, we still get some dust. And if you're doing charcoal all the time, which I don't do charcoal all the time for this very reason, you can get quite a mess going on. I think I want to leave this one here at this point. We're exactly 30 minutes in. So what I'm going to do is stop the video. I'm going to link down below to the next video whenever I'm done with it. But I'm going to stop it and start a new one filming with gouache on top. So let me know what you think, what type of experiments you would like to see. I can look into potentially spraying fixatives, but I think the first thing would be to try en natural and see what happens from there. And yeah, please like, subscribe, follow, and I will be back soon. Thank you all for watching. Take care.